It seems lately that everybody's interested in this new book that's coming out. 4 years ago, I think it was coming out. But it's going to ship. 4 weeks ago, it was going to ship 2 weeks. So it's been 4 now, so that means in 2 more weeks it's going to be here. Anyway, I have the very first copy of the Manson File right here. And I'm going to show it all to you right now. Why not? Because it's the best one there is. The very first. I've seen people online right now making claims, hey, they got the first Manson File. No, you don't. I do. And I have Charlie's copy of it too. Charlie Manson's copy of it, and he's even signed it within the book in 2 different areas. John Ansnell, another editor of this book, where most of this information came from in this book anyway, he signed it for me right here. To Michael on Helter Skelter, August the 8th, 2017. He took pictures of the bus when it was out there and Barker Ranch. Not long after, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that. Ooh. He took pictures of this not long after they had left. This bus is upside down and blown up. First time that I guess miners out there tried to take it away and blow it up, and they didn't get it all the way, so now the rumor has it they dropped it down some mine shaft somewhere. But anyway, we'll go through this whole book. I love this book. Charlie Manson did the artwork on the cover, because obviously it didn't have anything on the cover, so he did the artwork himself. He, like I said, he signed it inside. I also got John to sign it inside, plus Nick also signed it inside, another one of the editors where most of this information came from, Nick Bogus, because, you know, he was one of the ones that was friends with Manson, actually. And the funny thing about Nick is he was one of the better friends with Manson, one of the better friends of out of all these editors of this book. He was the better friend of than all of them, and he never met Manson. He met other members. He met Sandy and people like that, but he never met Manson himself. Boyd Rice actually did meet Manson. He's the dude that Manson can't stand him either. He can't fucking stand him. He says Boyd Rice was trying to make well before YouTube and all that shit. But Boyd Rice was trying to make some kind of name for himself, so he brought a bullet in when he was going to visit Manson and got caught with a bullet. And of course it gets changed and Manson wants a bullet and everything's bad for Manson. So people made things in life, like all these lies that are told now, people made things really bad for Charlie in life by telling a bunch of lies like that all the time, like, yeah, Charlie wanted the bullet. Charlie didn't want the bullet. Just as well as Charlie probably didn't even want the damn Dick Tracy watch that Grey Wolf got caught with as he was wandering in there. They all just try to do favors for him to make it feel like, hey, I'm your better guy, Charlie. So that's all I seen the whole time around Manson is people always like, hey, Charlie, pick me, like me best. So I can understand if that same kind of mindset was back in '69. Hey, Charlie, pick me best. Man. See what kind of chaos that shit causes. Anyway, we're gonna go through this whole book. I'm not gonna read it. I'll just show it to you. I'll show you. This is Manson's book. It's if you look on Google about the best books ever written about Manson, and this isn't actually written. It's like a scrapbook of like things pulled in, you know, from everywhere that was pro Manson. This is like second on the list. It's the 1988 Manson File, not the 2011 Manson File. That thing shit, it ain't even on the list. And not the damn 2000 and it used to be 19, now it's 20, 21, 22. Not that version either of the guy who says, I got the first Manson File. Sorry, that little spiral notebook is just a book report. This is the first one. This is 1988. Edition number 1 from Amic Press, and you can see it when we go through the book. There's pieces of things in the book. I don't know if Manson loaned it to somebody, but there's notations and things and little all throughout the book. Since Charlie had a pencil to sign his name, there's some things in pencil that possibly his. You can see as you go through the book on at any point you can probably pause it and read the whole damn book if you want to, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to flip through it. I'm going to give a little review of it and maybe a little review of the accompanying book that came, with it. This is called Compulsion 2. Nobody has this thing. It's got an interview with the Nine Inch Nails in it, and it's also got an interview with John Anson, and I had him sign this one in 2013. But he talks mainly about in here on how he supplied most of this information for this Manson file. Poor John, he's been ripped off all his life. He's one of the biggest Manson collectors out there. He's got so much information on Charlie Manson, but he's such a shy guy that somebody like Nikolas can just swoop in and just steal all his information, and not give John any credit, except for in the first book he had to because they were all friends. But later on down the line, none of that is transferred over to, hey, thanks John, thanks for all that information you gave me to start this book, to start my fiasco of pretending I'm somebody in the world. But anyway, we'll go through and we'll look at the interview of the Nine Inch Nails one that they have in here, because they were, at the time, they were at Sharon Tate's house recording. And again, this is from 1993, I think. And we'll look at that. We'll go through those pages. We'll also take a look at, again, I ain't going to read it to you, but I'll show you the whole thing on all 4 pages of it so that you can take a look at it yourself. You can read it through. And this was sent to Charlie from Nikolas about this book, and you can see, as you read in it, it's basically I thought you'd be interested. Now I'm finished with my book, The Manson Files. Before you get angry at the idea of yet another book, I thought that they were in on the book together. That's what he said. But anyway, you can read this. And he also said that they were in a music deal with Henry Rollins. Henry Rollins was in a music deal, got backed out because of the fact that there was death threats. And then Nikolas, he swooped in to save the day with the music. And they became friends in the 80s. 1982, he said, or something like that. 1988. Manson don't really even know this dude. And he's writing a letter like Manson doesn't really even know this dude. So we'll look at that too. Then we'll review. I'll give you a bit of a review on because back in 2011 I had the or 13, I don't know when it was. I think it was 11. I had the book that he put out. Had that one then. And went, man, there's so many things in there. One that comes to mind right now is Manson, his second wife. Manson's second wife was connected to the mob. Give me a break. You connect her to the mob because she was a prostitute? No way. I just don't go for that. I just don't go for it. Not at all. I just don't. It's just pushing things to extremes, man. There was a bunch of piss-ass people down in Hollywood back then running prostitutes, and none of them was the damn mob. So I'm sure some of them were, but that doesn't mean that Manson's second wife was. Again, it's 6 degrees of separation. Everybody's connected by 6 degrees of something. I'm sure, okay, somewhere along the line she might have had some mob story somewhere. She read some book about the mob or something, whatever. But I connected to the mob? Come on. And then all these other far-out outlandish stories. But anyway, I want to go through and show you the whole book, show you the letter, show you everything. And I think this is actually one of the best books. It really is. Because it has nothing to do with Nikolas Schreck, actually, except for him piecing it all together and taking credit for it. But it is probably one of the best books. The 1988 version of it, and you'll never find this. You'll never find it in a hardback because this was actually Manson's copy, and I have no idea how the hell he got a hard copy. And Nick will tell you he sent it to him probably, but that's not the truth either. I think more along the lines, I think it was maybe a library edition of one that they have in the prison. And Manson's own book was in the prison library, and he stole it out of there, I think. I'm not sure, but I think that's the case. Information that you find on Google written about Nikolas Schreck, he wrote it himself. And probably most of the information that you hear and see on the internet that's written by Nikolas Schreck I would say it's fiction. Pansoff. P-A-N-S-O-P-H. Pansoff. It was the other day, I was talking to Stoner on a live feed, and I mentioned the fact that, what was the name of it? Panthoff? How do you say that? Panthoff. I think that's Panthoff. I'm not sure because I'm not French. But I was smart enough to go to Google and find out all the French publishers that they had in France, and there was like 242 of them. And Panthoff, I Googled it, and when I Googled it, of course, first thing took me to definitions, and the definition of Panthoff is like encyclopedic knowledge. And I thought, wow, man, that sounds like something Nick would make up. And then I started looking for the publisher, and I couldn't find it. 242 of them. I wasted, I don't know, an hour's worth of time looking for 242 publishers of French to find Edition Panthoff, the most encyclopedic brains out there about Charles Manson. Couldn't find it. Well, happened to pop up the day after I said it with an Instagram page. And now they got like 40 followers. I think they've got like probably 1,700 less than Stoner Van Houten does. But anyway, it does exist. I take it back. When I started looking for his name, and then the Schreck part of it popped up, it was Julius Schreck, by the way. You can go look it up. He's a guy that's really, really close and tight with Hitler. And there's no other Schreck on the internet. I mean, in the whole internet, I couldn't find but 3 Schrecks. Nikolas Schreck, Julius Schreck, and Schreck, you know? And Schreck didn't even come around until after Nikolas Schreck had made up his name. And then the Nicholas part of it is like, oh, that's got to be some Nazi too. And there you have another Nicholas that's really close to Hitler, and his name was Nicholas von Below. And you put them two together, and really close to Hitler and a neo-Nazi that he is, that he covers for, you know, there's this big cover of how he's a Satanist, and some people will say he's a Buddhist, and some people will say he's this, and they'll say he's this. They'll even say he's an author sometimes, but it's just a cover for a big old damn neo-Nazi is all it is. And he's got lots of people fooled, and I really feel sorry for the people he's got fooled, because it's kind of comical watching them. But anyway, you can do whatever you like. I love my book. I love my book, and I love my Nikolas Schreck autograph, but that's about as far as I go. I probably didn't get to finish what I was trying to say the other day, but I came out and I made a statement that I think Nikolas canceled his own Facebook page. And the reason that I said that is because I had my own Facebook group canceled before. I had a Facebook group that I started when Facebook first came, and then, I mean, it had all kinds of people. Everybody that you know that you see in this Manson thing was on it at one time or another. From Star was even on it, you know, at one point. But then it got up into the Jason thing, and Jason, he got it canceled because people were saying things that he didn't like, so he kept reporting it. And Facebook actually told me before they canceled it that I could appeal that, and they would take a look at it, and they would decide whether or not that was, you know, it should be taken down. And I never did any, I didn't care less about that group at that point, so I just let them do away with it. And it took 2 weeks, and then they got rid of it. They notified all the people that were moderators of the group that it was going away, and then it went away. And so there's all kinds of notifications that pop up when they're canceling out. They just can't cancel your life and not say anything about it. And for you, the page to come out and say, oh, Zuckerberg, he's an asshole, he canceled my page, and then you come and make another Facebook page? I don't understand that much. Here's what I think happened. I think since Nikolas has been promising people this book for the world for, I don't know, the past 4 years, I guess, at least ever since COVID was an excuse, but I know it was before that he was taking money for this book, probably around even when Manson died. And now it's gotten to the point where people are probably asking, hey, friend and family, where's my book? And he getting tired of that with all those 2,000 subs that you have on that one page. And you're a big collector of information anyway. You cut and piece stuff together in a Manson file. My Manson files, all cut and paste. It's like a scrapbook of information. So now if you've got all this information on the page, and you can act like it got canceled out, all that information's yours if you save it. So all that information that everybody put in that Facebook, everything you contributed to it, he's still got it somewhere, I guarantee that. It didn't just go away into thin air or Zuckerberg's house in the closet someplace. No, no, no. That information, he kept that information. I know he kept that information for updates or whatever articles that come along with this Manson file to try to prove that most of this fiction in it is true. And most of this fiction in it isn't even really his fiction. He didn't even create the real fiction. Like, for instance, there was things will come up like in the book about maybe the connection between Jim Morrison and Charles Manson. And there supposedly was a girlfriend of Jim Morrison who was in the Manson family. That false connection came a long time ago from a guy by the name of Jim Van Bieber. He wrote a book too. That guy does the greatest horror on earth to some people, you know. It's not my kind of thing, but man, he has a great following of horror. He's not a journalist though. That's where that fact came from. Then if you go start finding other facts in the book, they came from other people like, say, Bill Nelson, who wrote a book, or Maury Terry, who wrote a book and connected the Son of Sam. He connected, not only did Maury Terry connect all the things that Nikolas is connecting, he also connected the Son of Sam and Charles Manson together. So, you know, most of the fiction in this book wasn't even really written by Nikolas. He's just taken information from everywhere, including that Facebook page that he canceled the other day, and started a new Facebook page, which doesn't make any sense. If you just got canceled by Facebook, why would you just contribute back to Facebook again? And now the 2,000 people that you had, probably 1,800 of them were complaining because now you only got like, what, 300, 400 people back here again? And you think I'm not in the group. Haha, am I or ain't I? That's for you to guess. Now everybody's going to be suspicious of everybody wondering who I am in here, but I'm in here somewhere. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? I was talking about the connection between Manson, Charles Manson, and Jim Morrison, and where that whole connection came from Ben Gorecki. It came from him. Probably about 6 years ago, he told me that he was good friends with Robbie Krieger, and he came to his house, and he stayed at his house while he was doing a gig in Chicago, and so I asked him, hey, ask him about Manson, ask him if they knew Manson. And back at the time, he told me that Robbie Krieger told him, yeah, he knew Manson, and Manson used to come over and sit and listen to Jim play guitar, and Manson really didn't cause that much of a ruckus or anything. He was more like a shy guy. They were friends. And he signed a picture to me that said Back Porch Tapes, #1, Robbie Krieger. Well, now there's a connection between Jim Morrison and Charles Manson. Again, like I said, the connection started with Van Bieber. It was that, you know, there was a Manson family girl who dated Jim. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. But anyway, so there's a couple connections there, and it started well before Ben Gorecki, but the one where Nikolas is getting, didn't Nikolas say on his page before it got canceled that there was going to be some information, and Ben put about my information, and they confirmed with each other that they're, so I know this information about Jim Morrison's coming from Ben. And I was in the same presence of Ben Gorecki and Nikolas Schreck. I could have touched them both. And we went to meet Robbie Krieger. And it was at a gig he was doing in downtown LA. We walked in, and Robbie was like this far from me. I was like cool as hell to me, man. It was like, wow. But we were there. We were all there. And we're sitting at a table, all together, all of us, me, Ben, Nick, all buddy. At least At least they acted like they were my buddies then. And then as soon as they left, they started making comments on the page that they won't let me in, the Facebook group. But anyway, we're all in the same place, and the show ends. And now it's time for Nikolas to make his dramatic entrance like the Satanist Buddhist god that he is. Hey, I'm such and such, and I'm here to, in this low goddamn voice. And that made me so mad, because now my opportunity to talk further with Robbie Coates, so all I got to say to him was, "Hi, I love your music." And then Nikolas's entrance and Robbie Krieger, he's like, he's gone. He's like he's seen a ghost. He had nothing, he wanted nothing to do with that subject of Charles Manson. He wanted nothing to do with that bald-headed guy that was coming at him in black like Satan himself. And he took off. But in the book, and that was only in 2017, and now we have quotes from Robbie in the book. Where did they come from? Did Nikolas come back to Los Angeles? Did Robbie decide, hey, this dude ain't so bad, let me give him a call on the telephone now? Or did they come from Ben? And Ben is not a real good credible source either to be making up information for a book. So this book to me is like Alice in Wonderland to me, really, honestly. So basically, let me get this straight. Basically, Robbie quoted Nick for his book. But when I was there, and I'm standing like, again, so close to history. Man, this guy was with the Doors. I love the Doors. I would love to say, I mean, if Ben actually knew him, for God's sakes, I was hoping he would sit down at the table and talk to us. None of that happened. And then when Nikolas approached him, it seriously looked like Robbie was looking for security. Like, hey man, I don't want in this. This is a bad vibe to me. I want out of here. I want nothing to do with the subject that this guy's coming with, or I don't want nothing to do with this guy. And it didn't have, it totally changed when he seen Nikolas. That was his whole thing about Nikolas, not anybody else in the whole club. And there were some weirdos in that club, and they were all going up to him. But the minute that Nikolas went up to him with this question about this Manson shit, he wanted nothing to do with it. So I don't believe there was ever a quote. I don't even believe Ben now when he told me that. I don't know what to believe, to tell you the truth. This is only my opinion. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything, but I see a lot of people on the internet today trying to convince me that this book is fact. And if it's fact, again, back to the website that got canceled that I wasn't allowed on Facebook, you know, it mentioned in there one time that we're going to send out copies of this book to journalists so that they can take a look at this book. Well, the only person that I see's got the book is a guy by the name of Paul, who does a show on the internet on YouTube called Paulcast. He's a journalist? Since when? I thought this shit was going out to like Oprah, you know? And Paul's got it. And then Paul's sitting there like, I don't know how I got this. I can tell you how, because you're the only one that believes him, I guess, because otherwise it would have been out to real journalists. And if he would have sent a spiral notebook copy of his book to a real journalist, they would have thrown it in the trash. They would have thrown it in the trash. So that's the reason that you've got the book and no other journalist has the book. And then there was an interview the other day with Nikolas. It's like the interview done about the book. No, let's get that straight. It wasn't the interview done about the book. It was the interview that was done with Nikolas Schreck that wasn't good enough for any kind of broadcast, so they threw it in the trash, basically. But while Nikolas was doing his own interview, he screenshot himself so that he could make it look like, wow, look, I'm doing book interviews here with and he calls him an armchair expert. That guy's a dildo. That guy's a complete freaking dildo. Armchair expert. What's he know about Charles Manson? Everything. If Nick's talking to him, he's an expert now. He's the armchair expert because he's talking to me. Nah, he ain't no expert. He don't know shit about Manson. And the stuff that they filmed, nobody cares less about it because they threw it in the trash. And when David says in that interview, I have another interview next, that was me. And after I found out Nikolas was part of this stuff, I never even did it. David sent me the microphone. He sent me all kind. I'm keeping all that, and I ain't doing the interview. And they canceled the whole thing. So that's the interview. And Stoner was on there. David actually already interviewed Stoner. And stupid Stoner, he's not smart enough to screenshot himself. Because if he was, he could have an interview of himself on his own show. But that's all that was. It wasn't even a real interview, man. It's just, this stuff is just a joke to me. You don't know how much I laugh at the things that I see on the internet about Charles Manson in this book. But anyway, I'm talking too much. Okay. As a matter of fact, I watched that interview because again, I watch everything Manson. It's hard for me to watch things Nikolas though because he makes up so many lies. But I watched the interview that was canceled, the one that they took out of the trash. And in it, the very first thing in it, Nikolas says how he meets Manson. First thing he does is he connects Henry Rollins. Henry Rollins wanted to make some of Charles Manson. Okay, that's another rumor that was started by somebody else. I'm not going to keep giving you the people who started all these rumors. Google them. Google the rumor and then go find out who said it first, because it wasn't Nikolas. But anyway, he connects himself into this rumor of Henry Rollins is wanting to make music with Charles Manson, and it gets canceled because there's so many death threats on Henry Rollins' life that now Nikolas has got to step in because death doesn't bother this guy. That's a lie. That's a lie. Because Nikolas didn't even meet Charles Manson until he did the film that he was in with Charles Manson. Like I was talking to Stoner about in the live interview, if you didn't get to see it, when I went into the visiting room and talked and sat for long periods of time, for many days with Charles Manson, I would ask him all kinds of questions. And one of the questions that I did ask him, well, you try to be like a name dropper, like Nick is, And so I went in the visiting room acting like all cool, like I knew a bunch of people, I knew about a bunch of people in Charles Manson's life. But actually, these people ain't in Charles Manson's life when you're talking to Charles Manson, because when I brought up Nikolas Schreck's name, he was like, I don't even know who you're talking about, and then you have to explain to him, like, hey, you did this, he was like interviewing you for this thing, and it turned into a video, and Manson's in prison. He don't get the video. He don't know. All he knows is people come in, they interview him, and they promise him, all of them usually promise him the world. They always tell him they're going to send him money, or they're going to bring a guitar in so that he can play, or they're going to send him a guitar afterwards, or they're going to send him pictures of the interview. And none of them ever do it. They just promise him to get him, they get him, and then they stick him. And so Nikolas was just one of these people. He was a guy that promised him the world because he wanted an interview with him, and oh man. Sounds like I'm just cutting on Nick. I'm really not cutting on Nick. This is actually, it's a book review, I guess. If I'd have anything nice to say about the book, though, the guy has excellent grammar. He has a command of words like no other. I mean, he must have like 4,000 thesaurus in his house. He has a good command of the English language. He uses big words to fool stupid people. Anyway, to Manson, Nick was like Geraldo, or Diane Sawyer, so he's Diane Schreck. That's how Manson really, it wasn't like, oh, my good buddy Nikolas Schreck, yeah, I know him. No, it wasn't nothing like that at all. It was more of, like I said, Geraldo Schreck than anything in relation to Manson and them being friends. The Henry Rollins thing was funny. That's another rumor that Schreck inserted himself into, And to me, I don't even know why. You know, he says he was searching for Manson's music, and then he finds out that there was a bunch of death threats on this guy who wanted to do this guy's music. So of course he wants to jump into the death threat part. Now, it doesn't make any sense at all. Just to add yourself in the story. And if there's one thing in Schreck's book that he does tell you about, it's the 6 degrees of separation, you know, and how close people really are to each other. You're only really 6 degrees away from anything. I'm 6 degrees away from Nikolas Schreck. Actually, I'm closer than that. I'm even closer than that. So everything is 6 degrees. Everybody that's watching me right now on this video and wanted to be in some kind of a connection with Charles Manson in a book, where you can write a book about yourself one day and say, hey man, I was 3 degrees away from Charles Manson. You are, right now. Just listening to me talk about Charles Manson, the guy that I knew, you are 3 degrees away. So that you should be in Schreck's next book, really, to tell you the truth, because you're closer than some of these people that he uses as unnamed sources. Another thing that, when it comes to Manson, you just have to believe people and what they tell you. Especially, like, for example, myself. If I tell you something, you're probably going to believe me more than you're going to believe somebody that doesn't know Charlie Manson at all. So, of course, Nick knows Manson. I'm not taking away from the fact that Nick don't know Manson, because on the one occasion when he went there and he did the video and he was Geraldo, he knew him then. And then back in it was around 2000 when he was promoting the first, you know, just put out his other book about Manson. Starr and Grey Wolf were like in charge of Manson then. They were losing control. Grey Wolf was dressing in like a priest costume, and Starr was in a nun outfit, and they were sitting hugging trees and things. They were just lost control, and to make it look like they had a little bit more control and they were more in touch, they had here come stand with us, Nikolas, make us look more credible. And he went back and visited Manson one time then. So when he was in the visiting room doing the Geraldo thing, if he got some great information, why didn't he put it on the video? If he's like, yeah, I went back to the Tate house then, which that information, that's another thing. That didn't come from him either. Manson didn't tell him that. He told Marlon Marinick that, and Marlon put it in his book. So go back and look where that rumor came from. Every rumor that Nick comes up with that attaches himself to it, he probably wasn't involved with it. And every unnamed source, there probably wasn't one. Anyway, back to on believing things, because people, you know, if somebody's close to somebody, if I ask John Wayne's son something about John Wayne, I'm going to probably believe John Wayne's son over some, you know, fan of John Wayne. That's all I was trying to say. So when Nick says that Manson told him this information, like he told it to him, either he told it to him sitting there talking to him. So when he was Geraldo, did he tell him that information then? Because when he was Geraldo, he was in there as the camera guy and the interviewer guy, and hey, Charlie, I'm Geraldo. Did he tell him that information then? Because if he did, why didn't Nick put it on film? You know, why ain't Manson saying, I went back to the Tate house? He don't, nowhere on film. And if he told it to him on a cell phone, where Manson would call him in the middle of the night on the cell phone, hey Nick, it's me again. Remember me? You know, when the hell did that ever happen? First off, let me explain the whole thing about the Manson and the cell phone thing. Because people make Manson sound like he's Superman at times, and Manson was the most hillbilly, backwards motherfucker I ever met in my life. He couldn't operate. Can you operate a cell phone? Can your mother operate a cell phone? What about your grandmother? Can she operate a cell phone? Because people make Manson sound like that he is a genius with a cell phone. I can tell you this. At one point, Manson, he wanted something so he could record himself. He wanted to sing. He wanted to sit and sing and record himself and put out more albums with it. Well, he got a recording device. He couldn't even figure out how to use it. And it basically had play, stop, Fast forward, and he couldn't figure out how to use it, and he flushed it down the toilet. It's like, hey, Manson, did you do anything on that recording thing? It's like, oh, I couldn't figure it out, and I flushed it down the toilet. But now you're telling me he can use a cell phone, and he calls you in the middle of the night to tell you information about 50 years ago that he really doesn't care about talking about anyway, and he's going to call you Nick in Germany. So that means that he had to get himself a little device to put in his cell phone to call to Germany in the first place, because there's a lot of numbers there. There's about 5,000 numbers to call to Germany, and Manson can't even hardly get 10 numbers right. You know, and you got all these numbers to Germany, and I got the SIM card, and I got the phone stored under my bed, and I'm going to call Nick in the middle of the night in Germany and tell him about things that happened at the Tate House back in 1969. Common sense says that ain't true. And another thing that says that isn't true is half the cell phones. How did they even get into Corcoran? Did Nick mail it to him? Did he's like, hey, here's a package. Nick sent me a phone. Wow, I better call him about the Tate stuff. How did Manson even get the phones? I can tell you that too, because I know how he got the phones. And I'm not saying I gave them to him. I didn't. Manson got the phones like this. Manson is first off, you got to remember where Manson is. He's in the middle of a PHU unit. And what the people they keep in that PHU unit they're people that are still, some of them are still on trial. Some of them are going into the witness protection program, so they come in as James and they go out as Jimmy, or they go out as even Ralph, you know, and you don't know who they are. They can come in as a criminal and they come out as a guy with a family. That's the kind of unit that Manson lived in. He lived in a place where they have despicable fuckers in there all the time. There's turning state's evidence on other despicable fuckers, and these people go there, so that tells you they're already liars, they're already con men, they're already the government promises them if they give up this evidence on these other bigger people that they'll change their identity and they'll let them go out the back door. So some of these people are still on trial, and when you're on trial you can have attorneys come in, and attorneys can bring everything. They don't check attorneys, so attorneys can just walk right in with a briefcase and all kinds of things. And all these cell phones that you hear about Manson having, every one of them came into that place either through a guard who was scared of an inmate in there and got threatened by him, and it's like, either you bring this phone in or I'm going to kick your ass. So a guard will do it. Or one of these attorneys that's working on a case with one of these other scumbags that's on a witness protection program headed out the back door, and they hand them the phone, which is really illegal. So not to get caught, so basically this scumbag attorney comes in with a phone and he gives it to another scumbag who's basically lying on, not lying, but telling everything that he did criminally with this other guy so he can get himself out of trouble. This attorney does not want this phone to be caught with this guy by the guards, because if he gets caught with the phone, they realize only way you could have got the phone is from the attorney. So these dudes, they give their phones to Manson. Manson gladly takes them too, because Manson don't give a shit if he gets in trouble for having a phone, because he'll get put in the news. It'll make it look like Charlie's calling Nick over in Germany talking about Helter Skelter, and then they start saying all these phone numbers that were on the phone that Manson called, and if you go back and you go to the phone numbers, it's half the numbers go to this punk ass guy who the attorney gave the phone to in the first place. And Manson is the one that gets caught with it. He always gets caught with it, because they don't want to get caught with it. They don't want their attorney to look like, and then their attorney gets banned out of the place and they start checking their attorney. So Manson always got all the phones from all these scumbag people, and he would gladly take them. But did he call people on them? Did he use them? Were they his phones? Were they given to him? 99.99999% of the time, no. And the only 0.1% is all these scumbags would give them to Manson to hold the phone. That's how he got the phones. That's how he got caught with the phones. That's how all the rumors got started about Manson calling everybody in the world on a cell phone. Or all the people who said, Manson called me on a cell phone. There's a possibility that Manson called somebody on his, I'm not, if he's got somebody's number and he's got a phone in there, he might be messing around with it to see how it works. But do I think Manson called people on the cell phone to give up information about things that he criminally did so that now that this person can go out and tell on him in a book. I don't think so. I just don't think so. And common sense would tell you, if you sat down and thought about it long enough, you wouldn't think so either. Right after I got this picture taken in the visiting room, I got it handed to me by the guard, and I was looking at it. And I thought, wow, what a great picture to have. And I sat it down like this, and Charlie says, hey, let me look at it. So I took it, and I slid it like that over to him so he could look at it. And then he did the same thing, turned it around, and slid it back. And then when he did that, and I had it in front of me again, looking at it, he says, you know you made a deal with the devil, right? Meaning that if I showed this picture to people at work, I might get fired. If I showed it to people at church, I might get kicked out of church. If I showed it to anybody, there might be some repercussions that come with that. I knew what he meant. I didn't make no deal with the devil, but basically I did if I show this picture to somebody. Well, right at that moment, after he said that, I went, how do you know you didn't make a deal with the devil? Because I can say anything I want to say about you now. How do you know you didn't make a deal with the devil? That's what I told him. Because I can say anything I want about Charles Manson now, and people are going to believe it because they believe everything anyway. Because Charles Manson's Dracula. So he made more of a deal with the devil by getting in a picture with anybody he ever got in a picture with than they ever made a deal with the devil of getting in a picture with him. And Manson made a damn deal with the devil when he got in a picture with Nikolas Schreck. And he made a damn deal with the devil when he got in a picture with Ben. Oh wait, he never got in a picture with Ben because they were never in the same damn room. They were barely in the same damn state together, let alone same room. So, everything you hear, take it with a grain of salt, unless you can get some kind of proof that somebody actually did make a deal with the devil. And when they did, you better find out who the devil is. So just like I told Michael Bruner about what they said, what Charlie told me, about him and Dracula. At one point, Dracula was a real person in Transylvania, who maybe had some creepy ways about him. Did some weird things in life, and then before you know it, he's a guy that's a bat. You can only kill him with a wooden stake. He lives in a casket, and he sleeps all day long, and then he searches for blood all night. That's Charlie Manson. That's Charlie Manson now. One day, Charlie said, I'm going to turn into Dracula. And he was right. That's why, after I told his son about the story, he gave me that holder. Because he knows it's true too. One day, his dad's going to be Dracula. Peace.